Do you ever just feel like you're your own worst enemy? Like you keep making the same mistakes over and over, whether it's in your relationships, your career, or just with yourself, no matter how hard you try to change? You end up in the same draining relationship with a different person. You back away from the same kind of big opportunities. You feel that same old wave of anxiety or anger rise up, and you're just left thinking, why does this keep happening to me? What if I told you that this isn't bad luck, and it's definitely not fate? What if the part of you that seems to be sabotaging your success is also the very part that holds the key to your greatest potential? This is the power of understanding. Your shadow, a game-changing concept from the revolutionary psychologist Carl Jung. And today, I'm going to give you a step-by-step guide to working with it so you can finally break free from those cycles and become the person you were always meant to be. There's a reason the same problems keep showing up in your life. The same kind of relationships that fall apart in the exact same way, the same struggles with money, the same feelings of regret and self-sabotage. You might think you've grown, you convince yourself that this time will be different, but before you know it, you're right back in that familiar, frustrating loop. Carl Jung had a name for this. He famously said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." What he means is that the things you think are just happening to you, the heartbreak, the failures, the disappointments, might actually be happening through you. Not because you're consciously choosing them, but because a hidden part of your own mind is running the show. These aren't accidents, they're patterns. Your psyche, the very core of who you are, will repeat what it can't resolve. It digs up old wounds, puts them in new situations, and waits for you to finally see them for what they are. Messengers from a part of yourself you've been ignoring for a long, long time. This ignored part is what Jung called the shadow, and as long as it's left in the dark, it will keep influencing your choices, your reactions, and the whole direction of your life, keeping you stuck in cycles you just can't seem to break. So, what exactly is this shadow? Jung called it the dark side of our personality, which sounds dramatic, but it's really a crucial part of our personal growth. Think of it like an invisible backpack you started filling up in childhood. Any part of you that was seen as unacceptable, bad, or shameful by your family, friends, or society got shoved into the bag. Things like your anger, your envy, your greed, but also, and this is important, potentially positive traits like your assertiveness, your wild creativity, or your drive for power. Everything we deny in ourselves, whatever we decide is inferior or unacceptable, becomes a part of the shadow. It's the sum of all the pieces of you that don't fit with the polite mask you show the world, your persona. Jung wasn't kidding when he said everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is. Now, the most important thing to get is that the shadow isn't inherently evil. It's just the parts of us we've disowned. When we ignore it, it doesn't just vanish, it starts acting on its own from your unconscious, popping up as those emotional triggers, self-sabotaging behaviors, or overwhelming moods you can't explain. The shadow, when ignored for too long, may manifest itself as loneliness, isolation, antisocial behavior, loss of friendships and broken families. But the dire truth that I want to get through to you today is that the exact same shadow can manifest itself as something much more serious. For a lighter detour in this quite serious conversation, I'd like to quote my favorite movie alien, the great and knowledgeable Yoda from Star Wars, who said, "Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering." Yoda is known universally as the wise old Jedi for a reason, and truer words have never been so precisely scripted into film. While the shadow is not inherently bad, it is the suppression and, more often, the unconscious repression of the shadow that creates problems in our lives. It starts with fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of not being loved, fear of failure, fear of rejection. If we can't identify this feeling of fear, it can lead to anger. You may have a sibling who is prone to anger directed at you. That is their own fear, their own shadow working its dark magic. After anger, they may even begin to hate who you are. And this anger of theirs will ultimately be integrated into your own shadow as well. Who would be happy in a home where their own sibling is angry at them and even expresses hatred toward them? They may have treated you unkindly, stole from you, lied to you, insulted you, treated you with disrespect, or even physically hurt you. Then, to add salt to injury, they manipulate your weak parents into them getting their own special attention and love, while you went to lick your wounds until the next battle. This anger may have followed you to other parts of your life. After all, if you don't feel respected at home, how could you build any kind of self-respect at school or work? It's a vicious cycle, and the beginning of the end is right now, with you deciding today to recognize your own shadow and commit to retaking control of your life. The aggressor is being eaten from within with pain and isolation, and because they have not even begun to integrate their shadow, they subconsciously choose to make your life as difficult as possible in the hopes of relieving their own pressure. You were never the problem. You were only the collateral damage. You are left with the aftermath, time and time again. But just like back in algebra class at school, if you can crack the code once, you can handle 100 variations. Healing is possible, and it starts right now. A great transformational organization that I can recommend seeking out is called Landmark Worldwide, and it shares a similar term for the shadow, which they call a racket. A racket is something that you might carry around with you for years. Someone says something that you don't like, and boom, you find yourself stewing on it for hours or days or even years. It is, in fact, the rackets of the world, the shadows that humans carry around with them as guilt, as insecurity, as depression, and as so many other negative factors in our lives. It is that backpack of weight that ultimately causes all of the hate that we see around us. Rackets cause wars. Shadows or rackets, when not addressed in a healthy way, will eat you alive. And in extreme cases, they take on a much more violent effect in humans who allow it. Murder, racism, anti-Semitism, political violence, these are all examples of human shadows at work. It is the rackets that create mass shootings around the world. It is the people who have allowed their shadows and their rackets to completely overtake them who ultimately have the capacity for war. This is called evil. This is all the bad guys who have ever been written into novels and movies over the years. Here's another kicker. You know those people who just irritate you to no end? The behaviors in others that fill you with rage? Oftentimes, these are direct reflections of your own unacknowledged shadow. This is a psychological mechanism called projection. When we're blind to a trait in ourselves, we unconsciously see it everywhere else, which distorts our view of the world and keeps us from seeing ourselves clearly. It's easy to hear a term like shadow and think it's something you need to get rid of. But Jung taught that this is a huge mistake. Your shadow doesn't just hold your weaknesses, it also contains an incredible amount of raw energy, vitality, and hidden talents. On the negative side, when the shadow is ignored, it leads to a life of projection and reaction. You might resent a co-worker for being arrogant and loud, not realizing you've suppressed your own assertiveness and your own desire to be seen. You might find yourself in constant conflict because you never learned to set healthy boundaries, a skill you might have labeled as selfish and shoved into the dark years ago. Ignoring the shadow can lead to anxiety, depression, addictions, and that nagging feeling of being inauthentic. But this is where the work gets really exciting. The shadow also contains your gold. It holds your repressed creativity, your untapped potential, your healthy aggression, and your most authentic self. Maybe you were taught that being an artist was a waste of time, so you buried that creative side. That energy doesn't just disappear. It might fester and turn into restlessness or a feeling of numbness. Bringing that shadow aspect back into your life can unlock a flood of inspiration you forgot you had. As Jung said, there is no light without shadow and no psychic wholeness without imperfection. Facing your shadow isn't about becoming perfect, it's about becoming whole. By turning to face what you've disowned, you reclaim all the energy you've been using to keep it locked away. This is the path to real self-awareness and strength. So, how do you actually start this journey of meeting and integrating your shadow? Let's get into it. Shadow work is a deep, reflective practice. It takes courage and honesty, but starting is not as complicated as it sounds. Here are 3 practical exercises you can begin with today. Step 1. Become a projection detective. The easiest way to spot your shadow is to notice what you can't stand in other people. Our strongest emotional reactions are often giant, flashing arrows pointing to what we've denied in ourselves. For this, grab a journal. Think of someone who really gets under your skin, a celebrity, a co-worker, even a family member. Write down the specific traits that irritate or disgust you. Be brutally honest. Is it their arrogance, their victim act, their laziness, their constant need for attention? Now for the most important part. Ask yourself with genuine curiosity, where is there even 1% of this in me? Have I ever acted this way? Or is this a trait I secretly wish I could express, but I don't let myself? For example, if you're intensely annoyed by someone you see as fake, it might be pointing to a part of you that feels inauthentic, or a deep desire to be more genuine yourself. This isn't about judging yourself, it's about awareness. When you recognize your projections, you take your power back and start seeing yourself more clearly. Step 2. Listen to your dreams. Jung saw dreams as the royal road to the unconscious. Our shadow often makes an appearance in our dreams, frequently appearing as a figure of the same gender as us, but this can vary. This dream character might be someone you dislike in real life, or just a menacing, shadowy figure that chases or criticizes you. Start keeping a dream journal by your bed. The moment you wake up, write down anything you can remember. Don't worry about what it means at first. Just get the details, characters, and feelings down on paper. After a few entries, look for patterns. If a critical figure keeps showing up, you can try to engage with it through a process Jung called active imagination. You can do this right in your journal. Write a question to the figure. What do you want? What are you trying to tell me? What part of me do you represent? The goal is to open a dialogue with these hidden parts of you, not as enemies, but as messengers. Step 3. The unsent letter. Our shadow often holds on to unresolved emotions from our past. Shame, guilt, and anger we never let ourselves fully feel. A surprisingly powerful exercise is to write an unsent letter. Think of a person or situation from your past where you feel there's unfinished business. It could be a parent, an ex-partner, or even your younger self. Write a letter to them and say everything you never got to say. Don't censor a single word. Let all the rage, the hurt, the disappointment, the shame pour out onto the page. Let yourself actually feel the emotions as you write. This exercise isn't about blaming anyone. It's about finally giving a voice to the parts of you that were silenced. When you've written it all out, you can burn the letter or tear it up. This act can be a powerful symbol of release, freeing up emotional energy that's been trapped in your shadow for years. This journey into the shadow is one of the most profound things you can do for yourself. To help you get started, I've created a free downloadable shadow work journaling guide with over 30 prompts to help you uncover and understand your shadow. It covers projection, dream analysis, and inner child work. You can find the link to download it in the description below. The point of shadow work isn't to destroy the shadow. That's impossible, and in line with our channel name, Incurable Likeness. Never forget that you are incurably you, and you contain the miracle and wonderful likeness of so many around you. But being constantly liked is not the point of this exercise either. Try being not as likable for a while and see how that feels. Be the yin to the yang. Be the light to the dark. You don't have to be everyone's best friend or perfect projection of themselves. The point is being your authentic self. Integrity is the bottom line. You being you is the goal. The integration of your shadow self is the work that we are doing here together. Integration just means you acknowledge, accept, and bring these hidden parts of yourself into the light of your conscious mind. When you do that, they stop controlling you from the dark. Instead, all their energy becomes available for you to use. You then turn from the dark side of our Star Trek analogy into the Jedi resistance, and the force of life works with you, not against you. You join the world as it is, not as your past dictates. Then, and only then, can you truly live in the present. The present is the best place to be. It's no wonder that it's called the present. After all, it is a gift and should be cherished for how it can transform our lives if we just stay present. That anger that may have been suppressed can then be transformed into the fuel you need to set healthy boundaries. The fear of failure you've been hiding can become a source of humility and careful planning. The vulnerability you've always denied can become the very foundation for true intimacy and connection. This is a lifelong process. You'll fall back into old patterns sometimes. That's perfectly normal. The key is to approach yourself with patience and compassion. Each time you recognize a shadow pattern, you're meeting it with more awareness than before. And over time, those old cycles start to lose their power. As Jung put it so beautifully, "How can I be substantial if I do not cast a shadow? I must have a dark side also if I am to be whole." Integration is the journey of embracing all parts of yourself. It leads to a more authentic, balanced, and liberated life. So, if you feel stuck, if you feel like you are just repeating the same mistakes, stop looking outside for the answer. The invitation is to look within. Your life is not a script written by fate. It's a story being told by your own psyche. Those recurring patterns that frustrate you aren't punishments. They are invitations to go deeper, to heal, and to become more of who you really are. By daring to face your shadow, you aren't stepping into darkness. You are stepping toward your own light. You're reclaiming the lost pieces of yourself and finally breaking the cycles that have held you back. This is the path to wholeness. It is the key to creating a life that isn't just a repetition, but a true, authentic expression of your true self. If this resonated with you, please subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss our future deep dives into psychology and personal growth. And I've got a question for you. What is one pattern you've noticed in your own life that you're ready to understand? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your journey starts right now with awareness.